Success is being able to take off when I want to take off
Hmm.
and not work as hard as I used to. It's the whole term work smarter, not harder.
Right. Hey guys, welcome to today's podcast. So I have a very special guest. So I posted recently on my Facebook group, who do you want to see on my podcast? And Robin Hayes was mentioned multiple times. And so today I have her here as a guest. And so welcome, Robin. If you could just, briefly introduce yourself and then we'll dive in.
Sure. Hey, everybody. I'm Robin Hayes. I'm in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and Atlanta, Georgia. I have been doing permanent makeup full-time since 1993. So next month will be my 29th year.
Nice. So yeah, it's always awesome to get, very experienced artists on here because, you've like you said, you've been around for about 29 years in the industry. And, I'd love to just dive into the first topic of, how have you seen the industry change, whether it was from when you started to maybe 15 years ago to, more recent times. What kind of
Yeah.
evolution have you seen?
Obviously, people are, has people come in that I've worked on throughout the years and they're like, has anything changed? And in some respect, I'm like, putting needles in the skin, putting pigment or ink in the skin has not changed. That process is the same.
Mm-hmm.
But pigments have gotten better. We have more variety, obviously. Machines have gotten more adaptable for us, in particular, women. No offense to the men, but for smaller hands, things like that. Needle configurations, things that we've never really had before. Anesthetics. The anesthetics you can't change a whole lot because of various reasons, but that has changed a little bit. And obviously, a lot more population and growth of the field in general,
Mm-hmm.
a lot more people doing it, and a lot more people training. So, with that is the good and the bad. Before I used to know everybody in this business from here to California. I knew their names, and now I don't even know them. They probably don't even know me, So it's just with growth, comes all those things, which is great. Like, we couldn't even get pigments. The tattoo companies wouldn't sell to us because we didn't have any proper training. They called us renegades. There was one company that would sell to us, which was Spalding and Rogers, and we could get the pigment in a powder form, and then we would have to mix it ourselves. And we had about 8 colors, and that was it. And you had to mix everything yourself, which is pretty scary if you don't know what you're doing. I did have an art background, so I think that was helpful, but it's nothing like it is today.
Right.
That goes.
So, over the past 29 years, you've seen a variety of economies. And I know right now a lot of people are screaming recession and doom and gloom. How has your business been affected over the years through, quote, recessions or downturns?
I actually made more money these past 2 years during COVID than I have at anything. I think in general, my offices are all affiliated with plastic surgery practices. And so they've had an upturn as well. So I think people weren't traveling and they were sort of just looking for something to pick them up, whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of us stayed super busy that had been in the industry for a little while. I think if newer people maybe just got started and then that hit them, that was probably pretty hard.
Yeah.
But I also think that you have to realize that it's not just going to come knocking at your door. And obviously you have to figure out your way to advertise and word of mouth and all that good kind of stuff, which for me, that's pretty much how it works. But I also travel. And so when I first started doing this, there just weren't enough people doing it. And I go in and I do breast and scars for doctors. And then next thing you know, they tell their friends and they would say, can you come one day a month? And so I traveled up to 3.5, 4 hours sometimes in one day, saw 5 to 8 people a day and would loop back around. So, I sort of, hustled, there was opportunity there. And I still have about 10 different offices that I'll go to and do those things. I've never left after 20 something years. I've been with my same doctor in Chattanooga since 98 and all the other ones as well. So I think there's opportunity. You just got to go out there, you got to sell yourself. No matter what, it's out there.
Yeah. So what are your best, tips for selling yourself for someone who may not have any sales experience and maybe a little intimidated by all that?
Well, I mean, I was 23. I didn't have any sales experience, but I think that you have to be confident in yourself, and you can't not be confident and do this business. It's impossible.
Yeah.
If you've got a needle next to somebody's eye, I mean, you've got to be confident.
Mm-hmm.
So I think getting in and showing that you've had the proper training and that you feel confident in your work and that you have a good, stable customer service, sort of calming kind of, I don't really know how to
Right.
explain that so much, but you just have to be sort of serious, even though some people understand this business more than others. A lot of doctors don't understand it, but they don't really care as long as their people are happy.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just something that the confidence comes in with that, whether you come from a background of nursing or you come from a background of, hair, or you come from anywhere, they want the confidence factor there. Never had an issue with that, but that and just good, clean work and good, clean follow up with your people. The biggest thing, my doctors, they don't want any hassles.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want any complaints. They just want to take their percentage or their rent and buy. That's it. They don't want to have any issues. And I think I got really blessed that I was able to do an apprenticeship. And so for 18 months, all I did was 5 to 8 people a day, every day, except for weekends. And so I was able to get a lot under my belt. And I think that helped keep me from having any issues.
Yeah, I'm sure doing 5 to 8 people a day will get you good really fast.
Yeah. I was very lucky. I was very blessed.
So, when it comes to marketing, social media has only been out for 5 to 10 years at most. And so, those prior 20 years, what did you do for marketing?
So the lady that I apprenticed with, that I trained with, would advertise in a little like free newspaper. I don't even know if they have those anymore. Like Penny Pincher, I believe it was called. This showing our age, or my age. And she would basically advertise eyeliner for $100 or $200.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was on like this sliding scale. So she would have a list of all these people that couldn't afford her $600. And she would say, well, my apprentice is charging 100 this week, and then after I would do 20 people, I would go up to 200, and then I would go up to 300. And of course, those same people sometimes would get multiple procedures. Mm-hmm. So that's how I sort of built up on that scale. And then I topped out at 400 when she was 600. So at that point, it's just sort of word of mouth. Plus, back in the early 90s, there weren't many people doing this. So people would drive in, from like my mom found out about it because her friend had it done. And then she drove in from Atlanta and she got it done. And then she decided to train. So it's just a snowball effect, I guess. And then I would say after that, we would do a lot of mailers, postcards, birthday cards, things, percentages off, things like that. I can remember many years taking my mailing list and putting stamps on postcards and, address labels. Mm-hmm. And that's how it went till we got emails. So yeah, it's changed a lot. And still, I have a little bit of an older clientele, and they still like that personal touch a little bit, mm-hmm. more so than social media. A lot of my people don't even have Instagram. Right. So it changes.
So one of the things that I had talked to you about before is, you mentioned you had multiple locations, mm-hmm. from acquiring them over the years or starting them, and then you've even like sold businesses before when you mm-hmm. moved, and that's one thing I think a lot of people that come into the industry, they think like, okay, I want to make a certain amount of money each month or year, but what they don't think mm-hmm. about is building that retirement or building that business or asset that they can sell, like in case they get they want to retire, they have health issues, they move locations, like you name it. And so what are some tips or things people can do to prepare to have their business a more sellable asset in say like 10 years?
Yeah, so I think that obviously you want to work with your accountant to obviously set a basic fixed income, P&L statements every month, pay yourself, obviously. Put yourself on a smaller amount that you pay yourself in the beginning to make sure that you can put back the money, to advertise with and whatnot. Mm-hmm. I think all businesses take about 3 years to really get to where you're starting to feel pretty confident about it because most people will bail within that amount of time. So setting up things with them where you may not pay yourself as much, but maybe you are putting away in a retirement fund, which a lot of us don't have. Maybe you are putting away for insurance, but you got to realize that you have to show a certain amount of income because whenever anybody goes to buy it, they're going to look at all your records. Mm-hmm. And so even though you may not pay yourself as much because many of us are set up as Schedule C's or Schedule S's or S Corps, whatever, you need to put it where it will take care of you. You know, like you said, if you get sick or if something happens, even, you know, disability insurance, you know, I break my hand skiing, I'm out for 4 months. So certain things like that may cost a little bit more, it's going to take care of you. And those are the things you have to think about. It's harder sometimes when you're younger, you don't have a family, you don't have kids, you don't really think about those things. Of course, now I'm 52, I think about those things. You know, my insurance has gone up considerably, like every year from 50 to 51, 52, things like that. So it's so important to have a financial advisor to help you with that as well as an accountant. I reach out to those guys before I ever do anything, before I try to pay myself anymore, before I, you know, go in and write a check for my 401k. I don't do anything without those guys telling me what to do and how I know if retirement age, if I want to retire at 55, which is what I'm looking at, which is in 3 more years, how I do that. And so you got to think long term and not short term. You know, you got to see it just drastically go up, but you do need to make sure that some people, they want to charge for credit card fees. And some of us feel like that's not a great thing to do because then you're only getting cash checks. And you need to be able to show that you have that income, that streamlined income coming in. Mm-hmm. That's just a tax write-off. You know, so we are small businesses, and yes, it's a lot of money, that 2% or 3% or whatever, but you just realize that's what you're doing is you're building yourself up to turn around when you want to retire and sell it to somebody. Yep. So, you know, you have value in the business. A lot of people will just retire, and it's like, no, you know, you have value. Each one of those patient files is worth a certain amount of money. Mm-hmm. So you need to sort of think about that long term, especially as you do get older in the business and it's hard on your body and we're all, you know, tired and, you know, think, I want to retire. You've got to think about the long term and not paying yourself, not too much, paying yourself enough that you're comfortable, but you're putting more away and then not, you know, going out and buying the $100,000 car, you know, even though you can write it off. You know, it's still, you know, it's a little bit of debation. It's just don't go do it without talking to your people. Right. Because, you know, yes, there was that law that said anything over 6,000 pounds was 100% off. Well, right now, a 6,000 pound car is a huge Escalade. You know, they're $120,000 now, you know. So it's not a complete write-off. And I don't know if people always understand that. It's, you know, they're always changing. Rules are always changing. So it is worth that monthly investment to have that person you can run that stuff by.
Yeah, and I think they actually just recently changed that law too the past year where you can't do luxury cars because I know a lot of people would buy like G-Wagons and stuff, you know, and write it off, but you can't do that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you just have to, I mean, we all want it to some degree, but it's like, it's just a car. It gets you from point A to point B.
Right. You know, and that's the thing, like I was talking to an artist yesterday and they didn't even like keep track of anybody's, like even paying customers, they didn't have their email, they didn't have their phone number. I'm like, you got to have that customer list. Not only for your own remarketing and keeping.
I mean, I even thought that was like a health department thing that you had to have a copy of their driver's license, phone number, email in case you have a needle stick injury when they leave or, you know, whatever. I think in some states that's actually a law.
Okay.
I know with tattoo artists in general, there's an actual, they have to have a copy of a driver's license and, you know, things like that with the health department. So
speaking of needle prick, let's talk about 2 to 3 day or 1 day trainings. What is your view on that? Can you, you know, I think I've seen you comment on a Facebook group before. Like, do you think you can get adequate training in 1 or 2?
Absolutely
3 days?
not.
Okay.
Absolutely not. I think that those trainings are for people that have already done fundamentals and that advanced is fine. You cannot teach somebody the depth of skin or how to hold a machine or needle whatever your choice method is without touching skin. I think it is impossible. Unfortunately, we had the whole pandemic of microblading. And then we had the whole flux of everybody coming over from Europe and training people and then moving back and leaving. And these people were just sort of left in the dirt. Mm. And then we had the pandemic came, and then everybody that was training couldn't train anymore. And so then they started doing online classes.
Yep.
I've probably bought all of them, which is fine. And some of them are great. But I don't think that anybody needs to learn beginner. Back when I trained, lips were considered advanced. You didn't even learn them your first training, which back then was a week, and that was still not enough. And then breast and scars, that was like 5 years down the road. So now people are training on lips and breasts and scars that have never done an eyeliner or an eyebrow. So it's sort of like backwards. And there is no way in the world you're teaching somebody how to do an eyeliner online. Absolutely, positively, no. And, some people are probably going to be like, that's not true. I learned in 2 or 3 days. You may have, but the other people that are out there that didn't get it, but then they spent all this money, so they still want to do it. That's what all of us are having to clean up. Mm-hmm. So, it's unfortunate that they're being sold that they can do it in that time. And there are some that can, and there are some that do great with it. But the majority of them, as you can see from reading these things, have no idea what they're doing. And they're reaching out for help on all these boards, but their trainers should be the one they should be reaching out to. And they either don't answer them or they're gone or whatever. And it's really sad. Mm. And that's where apprenticeship training is always amazing if you can get it. But I definitely am not a fan of 1 or 2 or 3 day anything new. I mean, maybe you can microblade in 3 days. Maybe you can learn a powder brow in 3 days. I don't think that our brains can comprehend much more than that procedure at a time. I also think it's really great to be able to see those people you did. So the perfect training scenario for me would be you train somebody, then you have them come back in 6 weeks to see those same people they did, and then they see where they need help. Little hard to do, but That would be obviously the perfect scenario. So yes, I love the advanced trainings that are out there. I just am not a fan of any kind of beginner training online.
Yeah, and I mean, I've only been in the industry like 5 years, but I've still seen some trends that kind of make me nervous. There was that post that went viral like a few weeks ago with that girl with the crazy brows, that whole situation. And then I think that was a lot of negative publicity for the industry. And then I've had people come reach out to me like, hey, I can't get any clients, so I'm going to start training people because it's more money. And so you got people who are really inexperienced just trying to make money training. And so there's a lot of trends that kind of make me nervous, but hopefully it'll...
Me too.
Yeah, hopefully it'll work itself out over the next 5 to 10 years. We'll see.
Well, I just think that you have to you can't go to school to do nails for less than, 500, 600 hours somewhere. Esthetician, 1,200 hours, 1,800 hours somewhere. And why in the world do we think we can do it in 30, 50 hours and we're cutting somebody's skin and putting something in that could scar them or maim them for life? I just don't understand it. And unfortunately, I've worked with many states and laws, but we're just still very small. And environmental health is very bogged down. They really don't want us. The tattoo, people don't want us. The nurses don't want us. The cosmetology board doesn't want us. So we're just self-governed. And that's tough because, somebody like me sees that stuff happen and it's so disrespectful to the industry. But it reminds me of probably how I looked when I was reaching out to people 30 years ago, and they were like, you don't know what you're doing. You have no clue what you're doing. And I didn't. I was working on people day 2. I was lucky to figure out how to work the coil machine back then. So
I guess what's the solution for that? Like, in your opinion, have you thought about like what's a good solution? Because like obviously everybody starts somewhere and you got to practice and everything. Like what would you recommend to someone?
I mean, as long as trainers are training people and people are buying into that money flashing going on, people are just all about the greed part of it. then it's going to keep happening. If the trainer's being greedy by showing them all the money they can make, and the person's being greedy because they're only paying $500 or $1,000 in 2 days to learn it, you don't go into this business for the money. The money comes when you're good at it, but it just changes everything. And you can't take care of your people when you're greedy. It just shows. So I don't know that there's a whole lot. I mean, obviously states are crazy. You'll have one state that has nothing. The neighboring states, 1-year apprenticeship. Some states, are really hard to get into. But I've worked with them enough to know that we can't really change many laws because they don't have a whole lot of wiggle room to change the things they need to change anyway. So it's really up to us to say, hey, you need more training. You need to not be working on people. Or, you really should be doing these 1 and 2 day things. You shouldn't be working out of hotel rooms, and you shouldn't be working out of, that kind of stuff. And some of that has changed, but, there will be something else that comes out,
Yeah. It's always about the next thing that can make money.
Yeah. And usually it's something we've already done. Like I'm just waiting on blush now. We did that 25 years ago. We learned it wasn't great. And eyeshadow's creeping back up. And, under eye concealer's always been a thing that we're just like, don't start, So everything sort of rears its head.
So I know you've been in the industry a while, but you haven't really done much training or something. Is there a reason you just never wanted to do that?
Well, for one, I got too many offices that I could really settle down and do that, right? For two, I just haven't really, and I know this sounds awful, I have never had or been approached by somebody that I really felt would get into this for the same reason I got into it and love it as much as I do. The first thing I hear is, you can make a lot of money. You make a lot of money, don't you? And that just turns me off right there. So I know that, people that I decide that I want to, then that's somebody I'm going to apprentice and sell to. I'm not big into 4 people in a room and trying to teach them, 1 or 2 maybe. I used to train breast classes. We would have 20 people in a room. There were a group of us ladies that did this for a couple of years. And then, as always, people get in divorces, so to speak, and they break up and they schedule. And it's just, for me, I make more money, which I'm talking about the money thing, but I actually would lose money training.
Yeah.
And then, if I was hooked up with the SPCP, I have a standard I have to do with these people, right? So they have to learn this amount and this amount and this amount. And so then I have to turn around and do the touch-ups on the people they did. So you really either have to be set up as a training facility, in my opinion, or somebody that just does procedures, or half and half. And I just don't know that I probably don't have the patience for it at this point in time.
Right.
And if they had their fundamentals out of the way, that's one thing. But definitely not beginner training for me.
Yeah, you mentioned wanting to retire, in 3 years or so. What is that your definition of success, or how do you define success in the industry?
I think for me, it is being able to live the life that I want to live, being able to put my kids through private school and college as a single mom, and being able to lay my head on my pillow knowing that my people are happy that I work on every day. So for me, that's what success is. Not mattering if somebody cancels last minute or no shows, or if I decide it doesn't affect me because I have myself set on this budget and have had for so long. Like I know what it takes. I know what it doesn't take. And I look at it like, hey, you got a little time to calm down and actually eat lunch or leave early or that kind of thing. So for me, success is being able to take off when I want to take off and not work as hard as I used to. It's the whole term, work smarter, not harder.
Right.
So I'm down to 4 days a week now because I have to have 1 day of just paperwork. I mean, yesterday was just my paperwork day. It's just so much stuff you've got to keep up with, running a business and then having, a few different offices, and then me having 2 different households. So my husband and his stepkids are in Atlanta, and then I'm up here, and then my kids come home from college. So it's just a lot of moving parts.
Oh yeah. So if you could go back 30 years ago and tell your 22-year-old self, anything, what would you tell her?
Ooh, well, you did it. You did it. I knew from the minute I picked up that coil machine that I loved it.
Hmm.
It was never a doubt in my mind that that wasn't what I wanted to do. I always wanted to be an artist ever since I was little. And I toyed with some interior design and then I would go into nursing and it was
Hmm.
just like, nope, this is it. I knew from the minute I didn't have a fear about it ever. I've never been a fearful person. So I want to just say, yeah, you did it, but I have to thank my mom because she got me into it. And we both, have had great lives from that. But you have to look at it like, hey, this is it. This is a career. This is not when people tell me they do this as a side hustle and they do it on the weekends on top of their other job, it just makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up
Hmm.
because this is not a side hustle. This is a career. It is a career that you can have for the rest of your life. You can pass down to your kids, you can sell, but it is not something that should be taken lightly, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, I've worked with a lot of artists, and it's pretty apparent up front whether someone's truly passionate about what they do in the industry versus those who are just trying to make money fast.
Absolutely. You can tell it with usually within the first couple of sentences.
Hmm.
And I'm sure it's like that in a lot of things, but this is not something, trying to fix and repair bad work is not anybody's fun job.
Hmm.
But unfortunately it's become about 50% of my work and I don't like it because it's not, no, it's not fun. It's painful to them, it hurts, it's cost prohibitive for a lot of people. And that person that's got bad work, that's 10 other people that go, my friend got messed up. And, it's not good for anybody, not good for the industry at all. And I just, I still do continuing education. I take 2 to 3 classes a year. I probably spend $10,000, $12,000 going to people's, they're friends of mine.
Hmm.
Do I need to do it? No, not necessarily, but I can always pick stuff up. I don't ever believe you know everything. So I'm always going to, try to keep up
Yeah,
best I
exactly.
can.
I think that to me, the best way I can make an impact in the industry is just have great people like you on here, and then just guide people in the right direction of who to look up to, who to learn from. So, who would you say your top? Sorry if I'm putting you on the spot here, but who would you say your top 3 to 5
Yeah.
favorite people, or who do you think are the
Okay.
best, leaders in the
Okay.
industry?
Okay. So obviously, eyeliner, you want to go see Will.
Hmm.
With Will Anthony for eyeliner. And all these people I have spent money to train with. If you want powder brow, I would say Na or Angie Kwiatkowski. God, I hope I pronounced that right, Angie. I'm sorry if you hear this. But Angie also does a beautiful lip. My clientele is not big on winged eyeliner so much. So obviously if somebody was trying to do that, there's other people that do that. I think Will's eyeliner is a little bit more on the conservative side
Hmm.
as far as those things go, but there's obviously great people. Courtney Stevens, she beautiful eyeliner.
Hmm.
And then obviously Mary Richardson is fabulous for somebody that did microblading but wants to go over sort of into the machine but still do hair strokes. You're not going to go wrong with her. And then, you get into the breast and the scars and all that. Vicki Martin, I'm actually doing some training with her in Boston in August. Carrie Lively is a great fundamental trainer of all things. She's like me. She's been in the industry as long as I have. So those would probably be my go-tos if somebody were to call me and say, I want to go learn how to do this.
Hmm.
That's,
Awesome.
where I would send them.
Perfect. And I'll try to include those links below so that everybody has a good, resource guide from this video.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that.
And I just try to support, like I don't just call out names because they're my friends. It's like I
Right.
try to support people. I got lucky enough to train with Anita and she didn't want to train me for the longest time, but she's amazing and she's in Canada, but sometimes she'll come down to Texas and if I haven't trained with them personally, I don't refer them.
Mm.
I'm like, this person does a mashup class, because I've been there, you know. So I don't just sell it to sell it. And I've never been a distributor or of anything. I mean, I don't distribute product or sell product or get kickbacks. I always like to tell people, like, I just try to support my friends, but I've also been in their, I've seen their classes. I've seen how well they run things. I know that you're going to be happy that you spent your money properly and you didn't get screwed over.
Cool. Well, we can do a quick, before we end this, we can do a quick rapid fire.
Oh,
And
no.
this is all unscripted, guys. Like, we don't have a script or
Yeah.
anything. I just came up with this. Let's do a rapid fire question about what your favorite products are. So I guess we'll start out with what's your favorite pigment?
Oh, so it depends on what it's for, right? So my two favorite eyeliner pigment, Permablend Kohl and Even Flow Warm Black right now. And then if for iron oxide, it is Black Magic from LI.
What about your favorite machine?
So I have so many, it's crazy. So my pick for the past year and a half has been an Axis Valhalla, and I have two of them, and I have the critical battery pack on the back. But then I just got the new mini flux from Will. I got it in yesterday, and I used it today and did a lip, and I just posted it. It has 0 vibration. The only problem is the battery is only a 5-hour battery life. So if you're somebody that either runs it really high or works more than 5 hours, you need to get a backup. So far, really quiet, very little vibration, and great for a smaller hand. So I'm going to have to say that's a tie right now, but I do love my Valhalla, and then I'm working with the Mini Flux right now too.
Okay. And then do you use online booking software?
I do not.
Okay.
And sometimes I hate myself for it, but I don't like people controlling my schedule. And because I have many locations, it's confusing. But there are some people that I know are going to take longer than whatever I can put in that schedule. And then there's some people that I know that don't. And for me at this point in time, it is still just, they text me, they call me, we figure it out. Plus, my people, they're more mature. They don't really like going on. They like talking to me. And then I have to be like, get off your aspirin, get off your vitamin E. And because I'm not at a set place every day, it's just easier for me. And everybody gets mad at me. Shannon Zickafus is like, you're insane. You've got to start doing that. And I'm like, when I finally get to one place or two, yes. But right now it's just, it would cause me, I think, more problems than how I'm doing it now.
Yeah, Shannon's from Tulsa, and she came to my marketing boot camp that I did in person in Oklahoma City a couple of years ago. So I got to meet her, her and Donna Maynard and all that. So my new goal over the next few years is just to go meet everyone, as I because right now I live in Alaska. It's a little hard to travel, but moving to Florida.
You do a good job of it. You get around.
Yeah, I'm hoping to move to Florida this year, and that way I'll be kind of more centrally located, or at least closer to people.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So good people. And these are people, of course, I've met at conferences. I was the president of AAM 20 something years ago. So I met people then. I've always been a member of the SPCP, and then I was on the board with them. So, when we get together for these conferences, it's just like a big old family reunion. And it's just so much fun. We just love seeing each other, and we've all become such good friends. We go on vacation together, and, it's just awesome.
Yeah.
People in this industry are awesome.
I love meeting all the experienced artists and stuff. I mean, I'll probably get in trouble for saying this, but I like all the people my age and stuff. They feel like they have to, do all the dancing and twerking on Twitter and TikTok and stuff like that. I'd rather just sit down and talk, experience and all that stuff without having to draw the crazy.
We'll put our back out. We can't be doing that. So no twerking.
Yeah.
Pass on that.
All right, so I really appreciate you coming on the show. With your reputation, it's been, you've been one of my main guests that I want to get on here, so I appreciate it. And I'll include all the links below so that people can follow you and reach out to you if they have any questions. And if you do have any questions, you're watching this on YouTube, feel free to comment below, and we'll either answer those ourselves or get them relayed so that you do get those answers. Anyways, thank you so much for coming on here, Robin, and I appreciate it. All right,
bye.
Bye.